Hey there friends, this is Bill McDonald, the Writing Doctor, and before I get into today's video on personal narrative, I want to say that I've really missed you guys the last couple of weeks. My computer crashed after our last webinar on supporting writing across grade levels, and then once I got that figured out, lo and behold, a hurricane comes to the Rio Grande Valley, throwing out our internet for about 5 days, almost a week. And then my computer crashed again because the electric company decided to come by and reconnect some, I guess, loose telephone wires or something that had come down, and they shut off the power without telling us, and it kind of threw my computer into a frenzy. It didn't know what was going on. So I want to give you this free preview on how to get 3s and 4s with the process that we call personal narrative. It's not tested in 4th and 7th anymore, but a lot of you in all grade levels have to teach personal narrative, or sorry, you get the opportunity to teach personal narrative at the beginning of the year, in the first 6 weeks, or the second 6 weeks, or both, or the third 6 weeks. Maybe some of you do it after the expository. This is going to be the last year of writing, but I wanted to make sure that those of you who are new to writing this year, specifically 4th and 7th grade teachers who are having that as part of your lesson plans, or any other grade level that has to write a personal narrative, I want you to understand what a personal narrative is. And I want you to be able to see some of the things that you're going to be able to get as part of the webinar. We're going to be doing it, as you can see on the upper right-hand portion of my screen. It's going to be this coming Thursday, the 6th of August. And I'm going to go ahead and do it in the evening this time. I had been doing the other webinars in the morning from like 9 to 12, 9 to 1, by the time we finish the questions and answers. But I'm thinking that some of you like to sleep in a little bit and relax. So I'm going to do these webinars. I'm thinking about doing my Spanish editing, revising, expository, and personal narratives that I'm going to do next week. I'm going to do them in the evening. For those of you that didn't know it already, all of my writing materials that I have in English, my products that I sell in English, I also sell them in Spanish on my website. The website, let me see if I have that there. You can see it right there above my head. Let me see if I can get my fingers there, at www.thewriteprescription.com. If you just type the words up here, The Right Prescription, you can find me on Teachers Pay Teachers. I try to give people that go to my website a little bit better price. That way they'll be able to stay in more contact with me about upcoming trainings that I might be having around the state. Sometimes they're open to the public. Sometimes they're open with a small fee that you have to pay as an outsider because the school or the district is paying for that training. So in order for you to come, you have to be able to pay for your own materials and your own seat, so to speak. This video on Thursday is going to be on how to get 3s and 4s on the purpose called personal narrative using one place and one event. Now, let's get into what personal narrative looks like, and I'm going to be using a star formatted prompt page that you can see looks a little bit different than the expositories that we've been doing for the last several years. First of all, it says personal narrative on the top. It'll say grade 4 or grade 7. Then you'll see the purpose called personal narrative. And on personal narratives, they always tend to have a picture. And what I like about mine is we live in a colorful world, so I wanted to let you see the pictures in color. So the idea of a personal narrative is to take a picture, just an event, so to speak, and turn it into a video, an experience that you explode. So just like expository, there's a be sure to section at the bottom, which is basically the student scoring guide for personal narratives. And before I get into the one that we're going to use today, I just want to show you some of the other prompts and pictures that will come in our little package deal that you're going to get as part of the webinar on Thursday. That one is write about a nice memory with someone. And one of the things I want to mention and take notice of that tended to happen a lot when we were actually testing personal narrative across the state, 350,000 fourth and 350,000 seventh graders writing stories. Whatever the picture happened to be on the prompt page on test day, it was like 50,000 students, 75,000 would write a story about themselves doing the exact same thing in the picture. So I highly recommend that you tell your students who are your 3-4 writers, think outside the box of that picture. I don't want to hear a story about a time that you had a nice memory with someone swimming inside a pool, because there's too many other things that you can write about that are positive experiences that you can have with other people. So let's take a look at some of the other prompts real quick. Bunch of people about a day with your family. So it doesn't say if it's positive or negative, as long as it's a day with your family. This one looks like it's at the beach, but it can be anywhere as long as it's a day with the family. I'm going to call that a neutral prompt. About a time with a friend. Again, it's a neutral prompt because it doesn't say if the time has to be positive or negative. It could be positive based on what you see there, the jungle gym. And people will ask me, can only the friend be there? No. As long as someone else is there in the story with you, then you've responded to the specific demands of the prompt. Your favorite place you enjoy. So you have to write a story. Don't describe just the place. Have an event that turns into an experience that takes place in that place. And because it does say favorite, you've got to talk about a positive experience that happened in past tense in that place. About a time you were afraid. That's negative. It doesn't have to be a shot. Your kids have to think of all the places that you can go and all of the events that could turn into something that's a little bit scary or frightening for fourth graders or seventh graders. A time you help someone, positive. Doing something that made you happy, positive. Time that you did something you really enjoyed, positive. Your best day ever, positive. And just because there are other people in this picture, that one doesn't mention other people. So you got to make sure your kids understand the prompt and what it means. An adventure you had. An adventure can be positive or negative, as long as you're the one that's having it, because that's what a personal narrative is about. And we'll get more into that when we describe the one we're going to look at. Something that happened to you that you'll never forget. It doesn't say it has to be positive or negative, so we'll talk about a neutral prompt on those. This one, something that you're good at doing. Okay, now you are good at doing it, but because it's a personal narrative, the person of the personal is you. I have to be the one telling the story, and personal narratives in most cases are written in past tense and first person. So think of the AL as I actually lived it, or if your kids are good at making up fictional, realistic fiction, they can actually lie about it, AL, as long as it sounds realistic, because the state's not going to come to the door of your kids, your students' houses and say, open up, you're under arrest. We found out through research, we did some investigating, and your child did not experience that. Come with us, you're under arrest, you have the right to remain silent. No, that's not going to happen. As long as the story sounds realistic, that somebody did something and they showed that they were good at doing it, whatever it is, doesn't matter. The example there is video games. We don't want to see 10,000 video games. You learned something new. That's a neutral prompt. We don't know if it's a positive or negative experience. The time that you found something, positive or negative, it doesn't matter as long as you found something. It doesn't matter if other people are there with you or not on this one, because it doesn't say that they have to be there. The time that you lost something or someone, okay? Normally the prompt will be one or the other, but that gives you the option to pick one. Just tell your kids lost something, or tell them you lost someone. Now that can be lost something or someone emotionally, mentally, like relationally, or physically. Just you were doing something and the thing disappeared or the person disappeared and you can't find them. An interesting experience you had with your family. Interesting is positive. Keywords with your family, keywords. The time that you learned to share. Sharing is a positive thing. Sharing can be ideas. Sharing can be experiences. Sharing can be possessions. And so you got to teach your kids to think of all the different ways they can interpret a prompt based on the keywords. Meeting someone special, someone, one person. You have extra people, that's cool, but you got to focus on one person. This looks like maybe it's some of the San Antonio Spurs, because it looks like that's Tim Duncan there to the right. I'm not sure, but I'm believing that is before he retired and started enjoying life. Special is positive though. A time that you, oh, I already did that one. About doing your favorite activity. Favorite is positive, activity is singular. Watching television is the example, but we don't want, again, 100,000 kids writing about watching TV, watching a movie. Be careful on those kind of things, because if you end up writing about a movie, if all you're doing is retelling the whole plot or the sequence of the event, there's no original writing there. So you can get quite a bit lower grade based on no original writing. So be careful on that. Write about a problem that you had. Problem could be subject related. It could be an emotional problem. It could be a physical problem. It could be a family problem. Problems are negative. So there's a conflict, and it doesn't say that you solved the problem. So when you talk about reading conflict resolution, it doesn't say that there has to be a resolution. There's a cause, a problem. We don't know what the effect's going to be. The student gets to decide, does this story end happily, or is the student still experiencing this problem in his or her life? And got that one already. I'm going to be discussing, as in one of the videos, how to turn what I call live compositions into experiences that kids can write about, events that they can called pictures that they can turn into experiences called videos. And this is one of the things that I did with my kids every single year. We would pick something from there. And since we can't take a lot of field trips and take kids to all these places, then we're going to zoom in on one or two of these in one of the videos. And I'm going to be able to show you how to bring the experience uh, to the classroom. For example, on the second line there, a mock hurricane. Every single year, I would tell my students about a week in advance, we have a hurricane coming, and it's going to be coming just to our classroom. And so we would do everything that you would normally do in a hurricane situation to prepare for it. We would uh, make class decisions on how we would make the room safe, the food that we were going to have once the power would go off, and I would have the power go off for so many hours in the day. And so the kids would bring like lights, flashlights, little helmet lights, and I would turn off the air at a specific time in the day, and we'd be basically working the entire day in darkness and with no air. So some of the kids would find these little battery operated fans or the little mist blowers, and they would kind of be able to keep cool. And one funny experience from that was that we borrowed two things from our coach, the big fan that they have in the PE rooms that don't have air conditioning to kind of circulate air, and we borrowed his humongous tug of war rope. And so every time they would go to the restroom or go somewhere else in the building that was required, I made all the kids put on their jackets and they would all hang on to the rope. And I told one of my students secretly, as soon as you get past where the fan is, and I want you to let go of the rope. I had already told all the students, no matter what happens, don't let go of the rope. Hang on, because hurricane force winds can be up to 100 to 150 miles an hour, and we've got to get to a safe location. And so when I told the kid to let go, like, he was so hilarious. He like fell on the floor and started rolling away. Mr. McDonald, save me. And so the idea is, after the mock hurricane was finished, then my students would write about an experience, and that would be one of them. And so this big list here are full of positive and or negative experiences that your kids can have. These are just words that we turn into events, which we turn into experiences that are personal, because the kids with limited experiences will have a chance to do them. One of the ways that I'm going to teach you how to develop with voice is use the acronym HORSE. Right now, I'm chewing on a cough drop. When you have a sore throat, it's mainly because you're hoarse. HOARSE. I'm hoarse. I have the horse there because some kids get horse, the animal, confused with horse, that you've lost your voice. And I have this in both English and Spanish. I'm going to be doing a Spanish personal narrative, that how do you have one event that happened with your head ideas, your opinions and your thoughts, with all the sequence of the events, what we call the actions and the reactions, your senses. I want to be able to see and hear and smell and taste the event with you. What did people say during the event? And how did it end? And what were your emotions? How did your life change? And so all that is right here. I'm going to be showing you in the body part 2 of the video. That would be the recorded one. How to use the acronym HORSE to develop one event based on something that happens, if it's a story, or something that happened if it's a personal narrative. Always the head details, opinions and thoughts. The actions and the reactions are the sequence of the event, and we have to make sure that we're responding to the prompt using our senses. What are we saying if it's a story? What was said if it's a personal narrative? How do we get the salsa in there? The high vocabulary and figurative language. How are you feeling during and after the event? And how does it end? What transition sentence can we use to get to the ending? You see the front of him is on the ground, but the back of him is up in the air. So the ending his two hooves is kind of up to him. How does the student want to close this story? And so I use that acronym HORSE. And for those of you that are Spanish teachers, I have the same acronym HORSE in Spanish. And I'll let you look at that. And I'll be doing one of my videos. My webinars next week is going to be personal narrative in Spanish. For those of you that have to teach either dual language or only in Spanish, I want to be able to help some of you guys that are Spanish teachers who are not familiar with personal narratives or stories. Remember that if it's me doing it, it's lo que hice. Lo que hablan o lo que hablé, las cosas que yo dije, las detalles de mi cabeza son mis pensamientos y mis opiniones. La secuencia del evento es las acciones y las reacciones, pero tenemos que responder al tema, porque si tenemos una buena historia, pero no estamos escribiendo sobre las palabras clave del tema, podemos recibir un cerro, porque una regla es, tienen que seguir lo que dice el tema. Es muy importante. Los 5 sentidos, quiero decir, quiero ver, oír, tocar, las cosas que estás haciendo, las cosas que hiciste. La salsa es vocabulario alto y lenguaje figurativo. Emociones, cómo se sientes durante el evento. Y en conclusión, no me gustan estas palabras, pero necesitaba un para completar el ensayo. Oración o oraciones de transición. También el caballo necesita un ending, en conclusión. La última cosa, the last thing I wanted to share with you that you'll get to see as part of the video is some personal narrative prompts or stories. Remember, when it says story, it can be about anything, not necessarily yourself, but a personal narrative has to be about you, and it has to be about something that you did in the past. So going back to our first one, let me kind of guide you on what a personal narrative, how they guide us through it. The same thing that we did in expository, we're going to write the word wow right above the prompts. Section 3, because section 1 is the picture. Section 2, they have something for you to think about that's going to lead to the topic, and section 3 is the topic, the prompt. So that's the right section. That's the whole thing about the number 3. It looks like a W, and hold it up like, hold your fingers like that. So WOW stands for underline the word right, and O, circle. So the O will be a circle, the key words. And so personal narrative is important. The person being me, AL actually lived or actually lied about it. Narrative is a story that happens. But a personal narrative is a story that happened about a nice memory. And my arrow is pointing up because it has to be positive. Every second of the story does not have to be positive, but there has to be positive. You have to be able to imply or infer that there's a positive experience being gained. It doesn't say that you have to restate the prompt words nice memory. Let me tell you, have you ever had a nice memory happen to you? We don't want, in the same way in expository, we don't want to be asking a question about the prompt. We want to respond to the prompt. The other keywords are that you have to be with someone on this one. So how do you get to one land? Well, it says to write about a personal experience. What do they mean by that? Well, the person being me, I am the one that's in this story, actually lived it. So let me show you my graphic organizer that we're going to go over on Thursday. The purpose is personal narrative, a story about me. What is the prompt, the topic, or if you're just doing basic open-ended, what is the question? The prompt and the topic is a nice memory. I said that was a positive. And with someone is the other keyword. You can't be alone. And so think of that. That's the red light. And so what is Pepe? It's an acronym that I came up with using the student rubric to help your kids know how to go from a 1 to a 2 to a 3 and to a 4. We have to remember, they said it has to be a personal experience. So the person, I am that person. It has to be about me. Okay. Now this engine is there because I'm going to stress the importance in the webinar on Thursday about going to one place. So many kids take what I call too many pictures. Their story starts with them waking up, brushing their teeth, taking a shower, getting dressed, eating breakfast. Who cares? If that's not the place where the nice memory is going to be, then we're going to delete that. And so part of the webinar, I'm going to be giving you a storytelling remote digital copy, which has a delete button or a fast forward button or a skip button, where we don't write about any of those pictures because that's so much wasted film that we want to just get to the part where is the place where the person me can experience the event that's the nice memory with the person that I've chosen as my co-actor, so to speak. The second bullet says, organize your writing. What are they saying there? Well, they want you to have an event, the picture. And so if your student says, last week my friend and I went to the swimming pool downtown so that we could cool off for a few hours in the pool. Well, that's basically heading toward what we call a 1-2 paper, because a personal experience, the organization needs to be something that happened. And so remember that the prompt AL can be I actually lived it, or AL I actually lied about it. I didn't really go swimming downtown because our city doesn't even have a pool, but your kids kept seeing enough videos, enough movies where people have gone swimming where they can make the story up if they're a 2-3 kid or a 3-4 kid. All right. So what is that saying? Keep in mind two things there. If you organize your writing correctly, the Pepe, the E of Pepe is what event am I going to choose? Because if you go to a beach, for example, as your place, there's like a million events. And so memory becomes memories. So we want one event. So of all the million things that you could do at a beach, such as swimming. We want the nice memory to be zooming in on one event that we're going to call the picture. Okay? And we said that we don't want too many kids using the picture from the prompt page. But if that's all they have to work with, well, then you can usually get at least a 1 or a 2 by having the kid look at the picture and turn it into like a mini video. Okay? So what we want to do to turn it to a 3, we want to make sure, the organization is, we have to decide which parts of the prompt. Well, it's going to be a nice memory that's going to make the essay go green. And I have to also be with someone. And so an idea that I suggest for you, if you're color coding, if you have a green pencil, a green highlighter, a green something, crayon, you're looking for the positive experience and the part where they're with someone. So if they're with someone but they don't have a positive experience, what they call that not responding to the specific demand of the prompt. So you can only get a 1 or a 2 in that case. And in the same way, if they're having a nice memory but they're alone during the story, the personal narrative, they can still only get a 1 or 2 because they didn't follow the specific demands of the prompt. Now, the idea is that you need, in order to get a 3, you need to turn the picture into an experience. I'm going to write the word experience on this first line because in video number 2, we're going to figure out how do I turn whatever event we choose into an experience, a video that develops the event. And we'll be using the acronym HORSE to develop it, not just with the sequence, but because of the O being the head details and the E being the heart details, the emotions, and the S being the 5 senses and the thing you say. Well, the voice is going to come here, and that's why they have the 4th bullet. It says, choose your words carefully. Choose your words carefully. Okay? In order to get a 4, you have to do the first 3 things, but you also have to choose your words carefully. So think of the word word. It starts with a W. If I take a W and I break it apart, it makes 2 V's. So one of the things you can teach your kids is that make sure the story has higher vocabulary, because it says to choose your words carefully, and that your voice, your head details, what are your thoughts and your opinions during the event, the experience? I'm going to point to my heart with my other V. What are your heart details? What are your feelings and emotions that you're experiencing? And you can either tell your emotions with word choices, or you can show your emotions by actual actions. What do you and the other character, the other main character, do, your co-star? What did they do that showed their excitement? Because a nice memory should be positive emotions that are happening. So we've got to make sure that in order to turn the 3 into the 4, we want to do what we call explode. I'm just going to put 2 little separate V's there to remind your kids that if this is the event responding to the prompt, then That's the organization. And how do you turn it into a 3 or a 4? Well, you follow the third and the fourth bullet, that you develop it into an experience called a video, and that you explode it in HD, high definition, by adding in your high vocabulary and your voice. Well, there's only one bullet left, and that's the last one. So let's see what that one says. Use correct spelling, capitalization, punctuation, grammar, and sentences. Okay? Well, if you think of C, the letter C, I want you to notice that there's a C here. So I am in this story. I am the coach. I am the star. In this case, I am the co-star. I and my friend. um, you need transitions between the introduction and the body. In the body, the event has to respond to the prompt, and you have to transition to your conclusion. And something else that you can do, because it says it, don't forget to have correct spelling, capitalization, punctuation, grammar, and sentences. That's the cups called conventions. You're working on the grammar once the essay is finished. That's going to be video part 4, because part 3 will be the ending. How do you have an ending that doesn't just restate? So that was my nice memory with someone. I don't, my company is not called May the 2s be with you. It's called May the 4s be with you. So I'm going to show you how to teach your kids on part 3. How do you have a reflection that shows who you are, how your world is better or different because of this memory that you've got to experience with your friend? So the other C is the content, that the sentences sometimes have problems with content. So we use that acronym ARM, where we add, remove, replace, or move content around. If you want to just think of something simple, the E, the sentences, you can have an ending. We have 2 feet. That means we try to have 2 sentences that bring the essay to a conclusion. Conclusion, conclusion has 3 syllables. So yes, you can have a 3-sentence ending, or you can have 2 sentences. So you can say, don't forget your ending. And that's why the E of Pepe is there. What's your ending going to be? And don't forget to take time to do the editing, because that last bullet does say that. And so usually if you're trying to get 3s and 4s, you want to have 2 to 3 sentences that bring the essay to a close. And one of the things that I teach is the heart and head ending. How do I feel now that this experience is over? And what is my opinion of the experience? What is my point of view and perspective of my life and the experience in general? So that's what you're going to get during the video webinar. Part 1, as you can see up here, is going to be live, but we're also going to record it. So if those of you who can't attend the live version on Thursday evening, don't worry, just sign up. And just by paying the fee, you get all of these colored files that I showed in this video. And then over the next week, I'll be recording part 2 in a recorded session. That way you can watch part 2, 3, and 4 on your own time. Part 2 will be a couple of hours on how do you develop the body of the story using horse and English. Part 3 will be conclusion. How do I have those 2 or 3 sentences that don't just restate the prompt, but they rephrase it or reflect it in some way, reflect the experience. If you think of the introduction as the appetizer, the body as the meat and the vegetables, the event that responds to the prompt, and then that you explain and that you explode, have an experience that turns the picture into a video, and you explode it with high vocabulary in your voice, then you're going to be able to get to part 4, that ending where you do the part 3, the conclusion, and part 4, I'm going to give you some strategies on how to turn the rough draft that they've written into a final copy that they can learn in class settings, in group settings, and in partner settings, how to turn a 1 into a 2 into a 3, and possibly if you have some kids that are more fluent writers, you'll be able to show them how to turn a 3 into a 4. And in the same way that it happens with expository, not very many kids get 3s and 4s. There's either way too many events, way too many places, they're not responding to the prompt, their penmanship is so hard to decipher that they end up getting a lower grade because of that. The grammar, because of not enough writing being taught in the lower grades. If that's been a problem, then I suggest you get the SWAG recorded webinar supporting writing across grades. So I look forward to seeing some of you on Thursday. I know that we don't test personal narrative this year, but I think that we should teach it, because sometimes the best way to explain an expository is to use an experience that you've actually had to show what you mean. And the part of the explaining process can be a personal experience, and the TEA has even told us that in their explanation, that yes, you can use personal experiences as long as you're doing a story to explain, and it's called an anecdote. We don't want just to write a story about the prompt for expository. We want to use the story to explain our reasons, to explain our examples. For example, if I say, I really like Disney World. Why do you like Disney World? Oh, because they have so many wonderful characters. Give me an example of a character. Oh, there's Mickey and Minnie that meet you right at the front gate. Well, then, if you've actually gone to Disney World, then you can have a little anecdote, a little 2 or 3 sentence mini story about something that happened that shows the reader, why do you feel like the characters in Disney World are so amazing? That was a nice memory, and I can use a little piece of a story. But if we don't want to do an exposit story, where we're half explaining and half telling a story, we only want to be able to use the parts of the story that help me explain points. And so it's a tricky process on how to teach your kids how to graduate from a story to an expository, not an expository or just a story. Because if we do so many stories but never do enough expository, what we're going to get is kids writing in the wrong purpose. So they'll be telling a story about a nice memory, instead of explaining why some memories are positive. And so there's a fine line that we have to be careful not to cross with the kids when it comes to the difference between the purpose called personal narrative and the one called expository that we'll be testing uh, this year. But I really enjoy teaching and modeling personal narrative. I hope that many of you sign up. Please share or tag this video with your writing teacher friends. If you're an ELAR teacher, um, some of the passages are stories written in first person by characters. And so if you want to take things to the next level with your reading students, have them be able to write short personal narratives, stories about themselves in past tense written in first person, and that will help them understand uh, that their their palm, what's the purpose, what's the point of view, uh, what's the perspective that this story is being written from. So God bless you guys. Be sure to message me. my email. I wonder if my email is here. I'll make sure I'll tell it to you if I don't have it on this list. Yes, it is at the bottom. If you notice, it says writing, and it's kind of blocked out by the gold bar on the outside, but it's writing underscore doctor at yahoo.com. So email me if you have any questions, or feel free to message me if you're seeing this on Facebook. If you're watching it on YouTube, then email me. I would love for you to click subscribe, click the like button. I always hold all comments because we never know what people are going to write that might be inappropriate. I like to feel like that you as a teacher could show any of my videos to your students and that they will always see something appropriate, that the way that I teach will be in a way that your students could understand and follow along using the same materials that I'm using to teach to you guys. So God bless you guys. Have a great week. Uh, be watching if you teach Spanish reading. I'll be doing the editing and revising next Monday and probably Wednesday. And I'll do the Spanish expository on Thursday. And I'll do the personal narrative for Spanish either on Friday or Saturday. I'm just waiting. I want some of you to, in the comment section, let me know if you would like the Spanish webinars to be morning, afternoon, or evening. That way I can get as many of you to be able to attend the live versions as possible. And it's not necessary because as long as you purchase the webinars, you'll be able to receive the recorded versions of all of them. And what I'm going to do for anyone who signs up for 3 or more of the Spanish webinars, I'm going to be sending you in the mail a hard copy of the Spanish binder. The English one is very popular with over 600 pages. My Spanish binder right now has over 250 pages. You're going to get a class set of the graphic organizers, the little train that you saw, but you'll also see how to use the editing and the revising and the train for expository. You're going to get a class set of advanced folders, which are just like my English ones that have the purpose of expository, uh, the editing, revising in Spanish, uh, figurative language examples, and on the back there's synonyms in Spanish where your kids can choose wisely. So be watching for me to post the Spanish webinars. What I'll probably do is put them all on the same page in my website. That way you can click 1, 2, 3, or 4 in quantity. And in the notes section, you'll just tell me which one or ones you'll be attending. And so anybody who signs up for 3 or more will be sent hard copies of the products, not just digital copies. So that will be a benefit for signing up for 3 copies. Just let me know in the comment section below here if you prefer, if your time available is preferably morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you guys. God bless, and you have a wonderful day.